A Podcast Has No Name, with your hosts, Doug Harrelson and Luke Aldridge.
Hey guys, and welcome back to A Podcast Has No Name. I'm once again writing solo this week, and I will be next week as well. Shay is going to be unavailable as he is enjoying some time in Hawaii. Y'all show him some love. I'm sure he is in the comments with plenty to say about this episode, and he'll probably have more to say about next week's episode as well. So let's just go ahead and hop into the episode because I do want to keep this episode a little brief because I'm a little behind on time. But it's currently getting a 7.9 on IMDb right now, which is the lowest rated episode we've had in probably since the last season of House of the Dragon, if you consider every sort of show that is in the Game of Thrones universe. So a little bit of a drop off here in the eyes of the fan. I'm going to say I actually kind of respectfully disagree. I thought this was a fine episode. I enjoyed it. I thought some of the scenes were good. Some of the dialogue was good. Some of the plots progressed in meaningful ways. There's a lot of stuff I can also discuss in spoilers that I'm really excited to talk about. So, and this episode's getting a lot of grief. The Tumbleton plot is kind of the main plot that we're going to discuss probably a little bit later in the episode. But I want to save all because it's the first scene we get is in Tumbleton. But I would actually like to go ahead and move towards King's Landing, kind of start there, and then we'll make our way back. So, Rhaenyra is in the midst of trying to get her council to go. She's trying to figure out Ormund. Corlys has pieced out temporarily, at least, to just go let out his frustration on some Triarchy pirates that are raiding the mainland now at this point. So he's getting his anger out in a very healthy, manly way. We love it. No, he does send his son Alan though back to towards the capital to stay in position and kind of rule in his stead. Similarly to how Tywin had Tyrion do the same thing, but I do think that the relationship with Corlys and Alan, while damaged, is nowhere near as bad of a relationship as the one you have between Tyrion and Tywin. Jeez. All these, we always make fun of the Targaryens for having the complicated names. Now these Lannister names are starting to trip me up. Rhaenyra takes the advice of Mysaria and names Torrhen Manderly as the Master of Coin, and we get some good dialogue from him. He says, Master of Coin, what little there is of that. Daemon has a smart comment for that, but yeah, you can see the council starting to fill out a little bit because she also gives Orwyle his spot back, with the agreement that as long as he is serving the interests of the realm. And a maester is called, actually, like if you remember back in Game of Thrones, a maester is to serve the head of the house that they are serving, whether or not they believe that should be the head or not. Like this is the second time that we're talking about Theon this season, but yeah, when Theon takes over Winterfell, the maester is forced to do as he says because that is the code of laws. The maester, now obviously, there's been corruption, I'm sure, as we've seen through just being getting a title doesn't make you automatically impervious from committing sin, as we've seen several Kingsguard members, we've seen maesters, we've seen corruption. Believe it or not, in the Game of Thrones universe, it has in fact happened. Rhaenyra also spent some time talking to Alicent and stuff, and then they keep hinting at this scent thing, and I do think that some amount of the foreshadowing that they've done for previous things and some of the stuff that they are doing has been a little bit more underhanded, and I'll kind of address those as those come along, or maybe more during spoilers. I feel like a lot of them are done kind of subtly, and I don't know what this scent thing is yet because it's really not revealed itself, but they're once again going back to this, like, the first episode he's doing the smelling thing, and then in this episode, Alicent mentions it. We get a scene of him actually doing his little potpourri or whatever. So I'm curious where they're going with that, but I do feel like the foreshadowing for this particular thing is a little heavy-handed for my liking. I didn't say this episode was perfect. I said I liked it, but that kind of that was weird to me. I have mixed thoughts on that. We get a couple more scenes in King's Landing with the battle, or with the dragon scenes. Hugh actually wants to join and take watch over Tumbleton, but Rhaenyra, I think, actually correctly is like, you would not be completely unbiased because you do have like a family member there, at least with Ulf. I know I have like some. She's like, fine, but you guys keep an eye on each other then. So we will see how that kind of plays out. Ulf also really tries to do his drinking buddies some favors after a night of revelry on the town, and Rhaenyra's like, no, like we need you to be alive. You are now part of the crown. Like no more drinking in taverns. You can get drunk here if you want to, but yeah. And you see the heartbreak in Ulf because I think he, to some extent, he might not want what he is given at this point. He doesn't want to be a proper lord. He wants to, be with his drinking buddies at the tavern. Maybe not having to pick up their whole tab, but you get the idea. As someone who has frequented, let's just say, taverns in my local spots before, he also brings to her attention some rhetoric that is being put all over the town. A lot of you guys on the internet are saying that it is that it's Lord Corlys doing this, which I think he showed he doesn't have to be underhanded. He was very blatant to her face, and there's also a kind of a level of disrespect of him like leaving the capital whenever she needs him to be hand of the queen. So he does. I just don't think that that's the kind of subtle move that Corlys Velaryon would pull off, but there's a chance that there's some discontent amongst the small folk, despite them seeming to approve of her before. Perhaps the Hightowers just know people. We'll follow this thread a little closely, but the scene then of the gold cloaks being absolutely brutal, I think that could be one of the things that could hurt her image with the small folks. And again, it's Daemon doing things that Daemon does is what she might blame it on, but this is I mean, because the gold cloaks are his. We don't get him directly saying to do this kind of thing like we did in the first episode of the entire show, where he goes down and like just is chopping off genitals and hands and heads and making a whole mess. So speaking of Daemon, now we'll get more into his little scenes in the Vale, but just strictly what kind of his. I thought that this was some really, really good acting by Matt Smith, because he's lying to his wife about everything in order to protect his daughter, but I thought it was really, really well executed. He even like the fact that Mysaria was able to pick it up tells you that it's like a thinly veiled deceit that just it doesn't. And he even tries to immediately like brush past it and start talking about something else, and then he kind of gaslights her a little bit by being like, "Oh, did you want to do it yourself? Did you not get what you wanted?" It's he's doing the toxic behaviors, but it's actually like for a justifiable cause. He's looking after his daughter, and I found this is when like Game of Thrones is at its best, when characters are forced to do things for the right reasons or do the wrong things for the right reasons and stuff like that. The only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself, and the Daemon is very conflicted in this episode for sure with everything that goes on with his daughter and everything. A couple other things that kind of happen in King's Landing I want to note. Orwell suggesting eliminating the High Septum, and Rhaenyra's reaction to it was fantastic. She's literally said that she was impressed with it. So that was actually my moment of the episode. I thoroughly enjoyed that little moment of brevity. It's definitely the Shaq meme. I'm sorry, I was unfamiliar with your game. Definitely for like those vibes for sure. So that was didn't expect to. Orwell has been a shockingly interesting character in this season, whether due to constantly having his life threatened or threatening the life of the High Septum. He's definitely made this season. His performance in this season has not gone unnoticed, or at least his dialogue and his actions. That one's been a fun one. The ball thing, we're finally done with that, so I guess that's how we get to where they put the little ball in the orb thing to like check into the small council meeting, and Rhaenyra was like, "Yeah, that's old. Let's just move on from that. Like, we don't need to be doing this anymore." And so I'm curious as to like the thought process of when they added that. I mean, obviously it did lead to the Beesbury death, or at least contribute to the Beesbury death. but interesting sort of like I think there's some lore you can add that adds, or some lore you can add that takes away. I'm not sure how I feel about this sort of like show edition. It's fine. It's not overly egregious, but we did address it with a line here of as to how this sort of ritual ceased to be a thing. If Rhaenyra had actually known what had happened to Beesbury, I'm sure she would have doubled down on this not being a thing anymore, because he was definitely one of the people that was an ally to her in the early phase, even if she didn't know it. We've got like three other sort of plots I kind of want to hit real quick before we get to the big one. Aegon and Larys are back again. Less buddy comedy this time, and actually, I found the Aegon with Sunfire scene like very, very emotionally moving. Like anyone who has lost a pet can kind of relate to the emotion that he's going through there. Like, and I do feel like the Dragonbond is a little bit more than just a pet to these guys, and we get a lot of sort of like dragons with their riders thing. Like you have Rhaena's line about he is part of me. You have Caraxes taking Daemon to his daughter against Daemon's wishes. A lot of dragon content in this episode that was really interesting. Tissaron and Daeron in the final scene. Lots of good dragons with their riders scenes. Like really cool. Always love to see that stuff because it is a different sort. I think I use the term pet, but I do think that the shows have and the books have clearly shown us it's a different type. Like it's a little deeper than that. If you go deep into the book lore or some of like the theory videos and stuff, there's some really fascinating stuff on how the Dragonbond theoretically works. You know, obviously we don't have it. And obviously this is a fictional world and we have no actual proof of anything. But yes, I digress. This was a really fun dragon episode for us. I do want to go ahead and shout out my notable performance. Matthew Needham, who plays Larys, absolutely fantastic. Him and Tom Glencarney have really good on-screen chemistry. Their scenes have been really engaging for me. Larys is doing his best to keep Aegon from getting them both killed. And he even tells him, hey, like, Rhaenyra telling everybody you're dead, this is great. Like, we can hang on the down low and then just try to figure out our plan, buy some time. We got this. Like, very smart. Larys might be the most Game of Thrones type, or like character. He's the character that seems most like a lot of the Game of Thrones characters from the original show. Like, where he is cunning, he is clever. After the first season, I thought he was just purely evil, but his motivations are murky, but at this point, it definitely feels like, I think because of Aegon's injuries and stuff, he relates to him more with the pigeon foot. If you would have told me in season one that the arc that I was looking to follow most was Aegon and Larys, I would have laughed in your face. But like every time they're on screen, I am engaged. I want more. And Aegon also getting and here we go, Theon's third time being referenced in our House of the Dragon episodes. But you know, the Theon arc of getting humbled, getting humiliated, it's very different, but it kind of hits a similar note on like a character developmental way. Aegon has been like this, you know, drunk. He's been a sexual assaulter. He's been a problem, been a bad guy, been arrogant. But we've seen like little bits of why he's like that. You know, his parents didn't love. We've even seen him try to be a good king at times, even if he didn't know what he was doing. And now he's getting treated like just the common rabble, and his I mentioned arrogance was one of his traits. His arrogance does not like it, but this is why like the humbling is so it hits really hard. Like I think he could end up a sympathetic character, but people that binge all the way from the first season might have trouble with that because he goes from being such a despicable guy in season one to somewhat likable in two, and now somewhat sympathetic in season three. It might be a little jarring, but I think maybe this is one of the times where the 2-year gaps in between have allowed us to forget enough to where we are finding him as a much more relatable character. I'm going to not complain too much about that detail because it's really, the scenes with him in them are really good, in part due to the writing of the character, in part due to the actor Tom Glencarney absolutely nailing this character. He's found his sort of wheelhouse on how to play this character. It's awesome. Look forward to more of that. And there's rumors that there's like an episode similar to the Rhaenyra episode we got, where it focuses solely on him as like your main POV character. If that's the case, I'm really excited for that. We'll talk more in spoilers about like some of the things that I expect on these on the back half of this season. I don't want to spoil anything for you. So I could go on and on about that plot, but I think I've kind of hit all the notes that we really want to hit there. To quote Cole in, was it episode 2 or 3 that he says to Harrenhal? I'm trying to remember which one it was right now off the top of my head. I believe that would have been the second episode. We'll find out whenever I'm doing the editing, and I'll kind of laugh at myself. But they get there, and Alice Rivers kind of mocks them a little bit about not knowing what's going on. They find out that Rhaenyra has in fact taken the capital. Vhagar and Aemond aren't here. Him and Cole and Gwaine disagree on exactly what their next course of action should be. Really good quote here from Kristen on he wants to peck at the Riverland host that's moving towards King's Landing. And the way he says it was attack as the scorpion does the ox. I thought that was a great quote. However, so they using these guerrilla warfare tactics and stuff, and he's like excited about the prospect of no dragons. In the book, it's Cole trying to hurry down to meet up with the Hightower host and getting pecked at by all the like Riverland lords. So they kind of flipped this here. Like there's even a spot where and we could say that this is just again unreliable narration from a green supporting maester telling the story, but we can't really sort of. I still deciding what's canon and not canon in your heart is different than deciding what's canon and not canon in books and show and whatnot. Because there is the ability for the book and the show to say different things, but it still be loosely the same canon because it could have the unreliable narration, as we've said before. I think I would have still preferred just having I was kind of rooting for the Riverlanders, like being sneaky on Cole's host and whatnot. But we will see how this plot develops. This is maybe one of the like best scenes of Kristen Cole though that we've had in a while. He's been mostly pretty cringe, but I actually kind of sympathize with him here, being like, "Hey, like we're not going to be able to get there in time to do much. So what we can do is to just try, and it's like it won't be flashy, it won't be glamorous, but we will find a way, and we also don't have to worry about them getting burned to death by dragons, which I think is a big part of his motivating factor. He has continued to, and then using Gwaine's own quote back to him, I thought was fantastic. You know, we must keep what honor we have, lest we become the beasts. Lest we become beasts ourselves. That was really a really good job there by Kristen Cole. I did not expect to enjoy his scene as much as I did because I've mostly just been kind of cringe at a lot of his scenes. But this one was good. This one's good. No disrespect to the actor. He's doing a fantastic job. And if you're one of the people that have blown him up on social media, you're a jerk and you should feel bad about it. We're now going to actually get to my scene of the week, my favorite scene of this week's episode. Daemon is in the Vale, as I've kind of previously alluded to, and it's difficult to say. I'm going to specifically target the Lady Jane talking to Daemon and just being annoyed with him. Also, she's probably our aura winner of the week. We've had the last couple of weeks. In episode 2, we had Black Alley having an awesome aura, and then as my co-host Shay had put, or as our substitute co-host Shay had put into your heads yesterday, the Daemon aura farming with all the dragons. And yeah, for this one, I gotta say it's Lady Jane looking down on Daemon from atop the throne that sits inside the Eyrie. That was brilliant. And she even says a great line. The dialogue in this scene back and forth is great because she's calling him like a beggar with a tin cup. She's like, I never thought I'd see this day. And Daemon realizes that she's just annoyed with him entirely. And he's like, hey, you know what? If you just give me the money, I'll just leave. Like we can just like both be done with this process. She says fine. I think she really is just like whatever. Like this'll. It's almost. I think she's enjoying his humiliation enough for it to be worth the fee. So, and but her essence, her like the the drip that they have put on the people of the Vale on House Aaron has just been fantastic. Very reminiscent of the apparel that they rocked in Game of Thrones, but just kind of done up really nice. Like love the drip from Lady Jane here. The more plot relevant part of this is as Daemon finds Rhaena in the caves, thanks to Caraxes. And I even mentioned this earlier. Caraxes, people are like, oh, did he smell sheep sealer? Well, the fact that they all know who sheep sealer is, they've discussed him and whatnot, means that like Caraxes has probably flown by the dragon sheep sealer. I think the reason that Caraxes did it was like, yo, your daughter is there as well. Caraxes knew what's the Tyrion line that he says whenever he's petting Daenerys' dragons underneath Meereen, of that most maesters believe dragons to be smarter than men. And this is a moment of Caraxes showing his intelligence, being like, you want to go talk to your daughter right now because some stuff's going on. The acting in this scene is really, really good between Phoebe and Matt Smith. Matt Smith was close to being my notable acting performance this week. This scene in particular is what sold it. That and the lying part. He was really good this episode too. But I wanted to give some love to our boy Laris though. So, but we could also give it to Matt if you wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that because he was fantastic. And Rhaena is just like being like, dude, I've asked you for like nothing in my life. All I want is for you to just like be cool. Let me just like fly away. And he's trying to figure out a way to fix it. He still doesn't trust the dragon, but there is a little line that he says in High Valyrian that you don't get subtitles for. But thank you to the internet, we were able to look up the meaning of the phrase that he used. I forget what the phrase is exactly, but the common tongue expression for it is fucking idiot or fucking fool. So he is absolutely like, what have you done? What did you, like, because Rhaenyra's not going to be able to forgive the Jace thing. And even when he's suggesting to go back and try to explain it, even he doesn't believe that that's going to work. And it's kind of rough. But yeah, so I think we now, before I get to the main sort of Tumbleton plot, as the Tumbleton episode is titled, I do want to have a brief sort of, I do want to talk about a couple of small scenes, both involving like the Alan and Rhaenyra discussion. Was just, I really like that Alan was just like, a fight might just be what he needs to get out of it. I thought that was a great quote. And then finally we got the cats, which us book readers were really happy about because it was actually Hightower in the book, Otto Hightower, who brought in cats after they killed the rat catchers. That is one of the areas where I think that this could be just, a green loyalist having just blown smoke up a green loyalist to prop them up a bit and not give credit to Alan and Rhaenyra. But this is why we have cats in the castle during a Game of Thrones. That Arya is chasing around to try to get quick and nimble. So I alluded to it a few times. So the Tumbleton plot. We have some soldiers here in wartime. And what do soldiers need to... And I thought this was a really good sort of zoom in on what like happens during wartime. Because normally you just kind of focus on the battles and stuff. But the impact on the towns that are being occupied is non-trivial, especially in this case where it is a castle that had swore its knee to Rhaenyra. So it really is a difficult sort of spot for these civilians because the Hightowers don't have a great reason to treat them with respect. They're throwing... So we get Ulf's wife and her family, and we have the weird, creepy dude makes a comment, and sure enough, the weird, creepy guy that makes the creepy comment does the sexual assault act. I mean, that was pretty transparent foreshadowing. As soon as he started making the comments about it being tight quarters being better, perhaps, you knew he was going to try to do something. Ormond starts to look like an honorable guy. And I actually wish they would have kind of left it. I didn't think they needed him to like execute the guy. He could still be a menacing bad guy without having to be cruel. And and this is one of the ones I do agree with a lot of the fan base on, is just like there was a lot more nuance with our Game of Thrones characters than we get with a lot of their House of the Dragon counterparts. They almost overly lean into making people extremely good or extremely bad, and I thought the nuance in Game of Thrones was one of the things that show did best. So he gives out the punishment if you don't know what guild it is. Let's just say if you steal something, you usually get that hand cut off. So if you would do something inappropriate with your privates, even if you were unsuccessful in achieving that, what did they do to your privates? And that's why you also hear him saying, I have a wife, because that will have certain implications for his ability to further his line or his family's line. But I'm not going to show a ton of sympathy towards someone who does that. And this could have been his chance to like really turn the small folk in this town back on his side. But he kind of undoes it when he gets Daron to execute this guy. Also, terrible execution, just stab right there. That was just like, no, whatever. I digress. We also get a phenomenal crash out scene from Ormond, as well as him making jokes about Baratheon not being able to read. The Baratheon host taking forever to get involved is classic stuff. But his crash out over Aemond not being able to make it, and then immediately just, let me fix my hair. We're going to have to change our plans. The actor that's playing Ormond is doing a phenomenal job of, there's almost a more terror in calm than there is in anger. Like, him being calmly heinous is a little bit more, messed up than him just being outwardly angry. Like, that was always the thing with Ramsay that was so terrifying, was just how, like, jovial he was in committing his atrocities. It just was fun. He never, like, lost his temper or acted like, or occasionally he did, but for the most part, it was just kind of the calmness and the lighthearted nature of his cruelty that made it so. But I still don't mind this, like, just huge burst of anger followed by immediate calm. It's still very unsettling for your villain characters. And at this point, I think that they've done a really good work of me. And I might have those two scenes out of order. I do apologize. I usually only get to watch the episode like once, maybe twice before we are recording. You can have the menacing without just the anger, but I think the calm right after it really adds to his unsettling nature. And he then begins to like rip the Targaryens, and every time Daron is like he rips him for being affectionate with the dragon. You see the dragon get pissed off. Viserion does not like this dude at all. I'm gonna lean with Viserion, but she's a good girl. She's a good girl. I don't think we're gonna get I don't know if we're gonna get the scene where he gets his moniker from Viserion being a hero, but we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot to go through in these next few episodes, and I'm very excited to see where we end up with that. Ormond also wants to make Daron king, which Daron feels very conflicted. We're gonna have to see him sort of develop more, but I worry that even he is a little like unsure. But then again, sometimes you end up with the Stockholm syndrome, where even if the person looking after your care is heinous and torturing you and whatnot, you learn to love and appreciate that. There's a lot of unhealthy psychology here. The people have multiple times commented online about how his telling the other kid to get lost immediately is spot on. How people that have grown up in abusive homes can tell when it's about to trigger, because it doesn't look like anything's about to happen. He looks pretty calm as he's rolling up, and Daron's like, no, go, dude, go right now. You don't want to be here for this. So, really interesting sort of dynamic between him and his uncle. I always get these, or I guess it'd be cousin, maybe. It's a little confusing, but he's kind of playing the role of stepfather and sort of fatherly figure here. So, and this is kind of where our episode ends as far as the main sort of plots are concerned. I do want to talk a little bit in the post spoilers. This episode gave us a lot of stuff to kind of marinate our teeth on. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. Shay, good call with the Helena pregnant thing.
Little breadcrumb. Um, when Alicent went to the garden to see Helena, there was a caterpie and a butterfly. She had a caterpie on her finger and a butterfly on the book. And I wondered if it was a nod to Helena being pregnant.
Thing he kind of nailed that in one of our post spoiler things earlier. He mentioned a little like scene that he believed was an allusion to that. Absolutely nailed that one. Well done. I didn't even see that moment, and then yeah. So I'm gonna, with that, say we're going to go into the spoiler warning. Thank you guys for tuning in. Next week I'll be by myself again. The following week, though, I should be back with Shay, and Luke should be back soon. I don't remember the exact date we're getting Luke back. Either way, for the last 2 episodes of the season, I should have a co-host one way or another. Thank you guys again. But yeah, this is your spoiler warning, so get out while you still can. All right, so the first one I want to address, so some Sunfire's alive. I mentioned this in a previous spoiler section. The more they continue to tell us how dead he is, and then just this little hint from Aegon of him being alive. Yeah, they're kind of waving. It's more subtle than whatever the scent thing is they're doing with Ormond, which whatever. I just think that they went way over the top with the foreshadowing of that. Like it's just it's a little silly. I think I don't know. I could be nitpicking, but I mean that's what we do. We nitpick. I still enjoy the show. I'm still going to keep watching it, and there are definitely things they could do that could mess that up for me. So yeah, the trip down the Riverlands. Are they going to the Cole and his army heading down the Riverlands? So it's supposed to eventually lead to them just getting like trapped by a bunch of armies and then just like completely massacred. I guess that can happen if they're trying to be sneaky and then just they mess up. But I also kind of the idea that they were just continuously getting pecked at until they were surrounded just made like a lot of logical sense from reading of the book. I kind of mentioned this before just now. I had finally given up on Maelor the Missing, but it looks like Helena's pregnant. So some of those scenes from the trailer, we might be seeing her give birth. I don't know what their plan is with that. Are they going to have Rhaenyra kill the child? Are they going to have her do the moon tea thing? Is Maelor one that was never like truly alive? Is he born in secret and then Rickard Thorne tries to escape with him and is killed? I just feel like the natural time to have him has passed. But we will see. I do think this season the changes that they've made have not bothered me too much. Just how quickly they got to Tumbleton is the one I'm probably most butthurt about. Everything else is kind of fine. Like, I didn't get the fish feed. I got a song about it though, so that was fine. The two betrayers, so them both being on guard at Tumbleton obviously sets up the plot. I could see Ormond being the one to find out that is her husband, Hugh the Hammer, flying, and then use that to leverage him to the green side. Rhaenyra hasn't exactly done him any favors yet at this point, so I could see him possibly doing something like that. We'll see. I also felt like he liked Aegon in their first interaction, though Aegon never went through on his promise, so that could go either way. Ulf, the tension with him and Rhaenyra seems palpable at this point. His betrayal seems almost like inevitable, just like wanting better prizes, wanting better loot, wanting more freedom, doesn't like the fact that Rhaenyra is telling him he can't go to pubs. Like, there are very many ways that you could get to his betrayal pretty easily. I think that the betrayal will still be how they end the season. I don't know for sure, but that's kind of my prediction. Gwaine Hightower, he is alive. Way past, well, maybe not way past, but he is alive in the story still. But in the books, he would already be dead because he was actually with the Gold Cloaks. He was the Lord Commander of the Gold Cloaks, or was he the Lord Commander or second in command? And he's killed by the current Lord Commander, Lothar. Like, so he's he's dead in the books. So I don't know what their plan is for, because I do feel like they'll eventually have to kill him. He could just die at the Butcher's Ball, but it's working out because the scenes with him and Cole have been pretty good. So we'll let that sort of slide. Finally, we have our Nettles arc. So I think a lot of our predictions are kind of going exactly where we thought they would, that Daemon is trying to hide the identity of Rhaena from Rhaenyra, and that's going to be the thing instead of the romantic arc. But I don't think history nor Rhaenyra will ever discover that it is Rhaena, is kind of my little prediction here. But it causes the discontent in the relationship between her and Daemon, and that might end up being why Daemon decides just to end it all in a blaze of glory and attempting to murder. Well, not an attempt, when he murders Aemond Targaryen. Now, there's some people that think that scene will change, but we talked about this last week with me and Shay. That would be an unforgivable sin. We don't mind his body being recovered by the Green Men or some other sort of thing, but I just don't think that they can change that without really compromising what the story is. George is already getting a little heated about all of this. My time is a little tight because my schedule is all out of whack this week as far as when I recorded and when I did all this. So you should be getting this dropped on Wednesday night if I am able to kind of keep up with the schedule I'm trying to. Next week, I should be able to stay on the same timeline. I'm thinking about getting the audio version out a day early, which is something I could definitely do potentially going forward. We will see. Again, I'm still in the learning phases of doing all this, and if you've stuck around this far in the show, you're a true and loyal fan, and the Crown thanks you for your service to it. Please hit it with a like. Please hit it with a subscribe. Please hit me with 5 stars on there. I've tried out some different audio sort of stuff this week. If it sounded better, let me know. I don't think this setup will work whenever I've tried it whenever I'm in the Discord call with my co-host, and it creates an echo loop, unfortunately. So when it's just me and there's nothing coming in my ears, this is actually working okay. So we'll try some different audio sort of setups as we go along. But thanks again. Please have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us. Please join us again next week.